Winter's here, blanketing everything in white, but some stories send chills down your spine, leaving an eerie silence behind. This is one of them. Our journey takes us to the northern Ural Mountains of Russia, a place of stark, unforgiving beauty. It was here, in February 1959, that a group of 9 experienced hikers embarked on an expedition, a challenge they were more than prepared for. Led by Igor Dyatlov, they were young, strong, and full of life students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnical Institute. We see them in photographs, smiling, their faces bright with the promise of adventure. They were skilled in ski touring and mountain expeditions, ready to conquer the formidable Otorten Mountain. They documented their journey, capturing moments of camaraderie against a backdrop of endless snow. Their diaries and photographs paint a picture of a difficult but manageable trek. They were a team, united by a love for the wild. But this journey into the frozen wilderness would be their last. They would never make it back, leaving behind a mystery that has haunted investigators and storytellers for decades. On February 1st, they camped on the eerie Kholat Syakhl, or Dead Mountain. It was a decision that, in hindsight, seems fateful. The weather had worsened, with high winds and plummeting temperatures, forcing them to stop short of their intended destination. From the journal entries recovered, their last night seemed ordinary. They had a meal, prepared for sleep, and settled into their tent, braced against the elements. But sometime during that night, something went terribly wrong. Something so terrifying that it drove them from the only shelter they had. A search party was dispatched weeks later when the group failed to send a prearranged telegram. What they discovered was not a simple case of hikers lost to the elements. It was a scene of pure, inexplicable horror. The tent was found abandoned, heavily damaged, and bizarrely, it had been cut open from the inside. It was as if the occupants had been desperate to escape, slicing through the canvas with a knife to flee into the sub-zero darkness. There were no signs of a struggle with another person, no evidence of an animal attack, just the footprints of the hikers, leading away from the tent down the slope. And here, the mystery deepens. The footprints showed that the hikers had fled barefoot, or wearing only socks, into snow that was meters deep and temperatures hovering around -30 degrees Celsius. Why would 9 seasoned mountaineers abandon their shelter, their boots, and their warm clothing to face certain death in the brutal Siberian night? What could have caused such sudden, primal panic? The search team followed the trail of footprints, a silent testament to the group's desperate flight. The first 2 bodies were found about a mile away, near the remnants of a small fire under a large cedar tree. They were dressed only in their underwear, their hands raw and scraped, suggesting they had frantically tried to climb the tree. Perhaps they were looking for something, or escaping from something on the ground. 3 more bodies, including that of Igor Dyatlov himself, were discovered between the cedar tree and the camp. Their positions suggested they were trying to return to the tent, a futile attempt to reclaim their only source of survival. They had succumbed to hypothermia, a tragic but seemingly understandable fate in such conditions. For a moment, the case might have appeared to be a terrible but logical accident. But the true enigma of Dyatlov Pass was yet to be revealed. It would be more than 2 months before the remaining 4 hikers were found. In May, as the snow began to melt, the last 4 bodies were discovered in a ravine, buried under 4 meters of snow, not far from the cedar tree. And it was their injuries that turned this tragic incident into an enduring, chilling puzzle. These hikers had suffered catastrophic internal trauma. One had major chest fractures, another had severe head trauma, and one woman was missing her tongue, eyes, and part of her lip tissue. The coroner who examined them concluded that the force required to cause such injuries was immense, comparable to the impact of a car crash. Yet, perplexingly, there were no significant external wounds. It was as if they had been crushed by an incredible, invincible force. How could they have sustained these injuries with no outward signs of a fight or a fall? And what could explain the missing soft tissue? The questions began to multiply, each one more unsettling than the last. The official investigation in 1959 concluded that the hikers had died as a result of a compelling natural force. This vague and unsatisfying conclusion only fueled speculation. Over the years, countless theories have emerged, each attempting to explain the sequence of events on that terrifying night. Was it an avalanche? This is a popular and rational theory. A slab avalanche could have damaged the tent and caused initial panic. However, critics point out that the site showed no typical signs of an avalanche. The tent was not fully buried, and objects left nearby were undisturbed. The footprints leading away from the tent were also clearly visible, which would be unlikely after a significant snowslide. Furthermore, an avalanche wouldn't explain the severe internal injuries of the last 4 victims, nor their location in the ravine away from the initial camp. The avalanche theory, while plausible for the initial panic, leaves too many crucial questions unanswered. Other theories venture into more sinister territory. One popular hypothesis involves secret military weapons testing. The area was known to be near Soviet military zones. Could the hikers have accidentally witnessed something they weren't supposed to see? Some speculate that a parachute mine or a concussion bomb test could have produced the internal injuries and the loud noise that drove them from the tent. Adding fuel to this idea are reports from other nearby groups who claimed to have seen strange orange spheres or lights in the sky on the night of the incident. This has led to theories involving UFOs and extraterrestrial encounters. While compelling for their dramatic scope, there is no concrete evidence to support these claims. The files remain classified, and the strange lights could have been anything from meteorological phenomena to rocket launches. The military has always denied any activity in that area at that time. Then there are the more unusual, fringe theories. Infrasound is super fascinating. This is sound at a frequency so low, it's inaudible to the human ear. Certain wind patterns can create a carmine vortex street around Kholat-Syakhl's peak at the right intensity. Infrasound is known to induce feelings of intense panic, dread, and nausea. Could a sudden, powerful blast of infrasound have driven the hikers mad with irrational fear, causing them to slash their way out of the tent and flee into the blizzard? This could explain their panicked state, but it still fails to account for the devastating physical injuries. Was it a combination of factors? A rare natural event followed by a tragic series of poor decisions made under extreme duress? Or something far stranger? The puzzle pieces just don't seem to fit together neatly. In 2019, Russia reopened the case to clarify. Their conclusion, announced in 2020 and supported by a scientific modeling study in 2021, landed firmly on a specific type of avalanche: a small, delayed slab avalanche. The theory posits that the hikers cut into the snow slope to set up their tent, destabilizing it. Hours later, as winds piled more snow on top, a small slab broke loose, sliding down and landing on the tent. This wouldn't have buried them completely, but would have caused panic and possibly some initial, non-lethal injuries, trapping them inside. In their fear and disorientation in the dark, they cut their way out. Underdressed and in a state of shock, hypothermia quickly set in, clouding their judgment and leading to the bizarre behaviors and eventual tragedy. This explanation accounts for the cut tent and the flight from camp. It even attempts to explain the severe injuries of the last 4, suggesting they fell into the ravine in the darkness. But even this modern, scientific explanation has not satisfied everyone. For many, it feels too simple, too clean. It doesn't fully capture the sheer terror that the evidence seems to suggest. It struggles to convincingly explain the extreme force of the internal injuries, described as being beyond what a simple fall into a snow-covered ravine could cause. So, what happened to the missing tongue? They say it decomposed and animals got it. Plausible. Yes, but in the context of so many other oddities, it just adds to the unsettling nature of the scene. The Dyatlov Pass incident remains a masterclass in ambiguity. Every piece of evidence can be interpreted in multiple ways, leading down branching paths of logic, speculation, and fear. The truth is, we may never know for certain what happened. The mountain keeps its secrets. More than 60 years later, Kholat-Syakhl stands silent, a monument to the 9 souls it claimed. The story of the Dyatlov group is a chilling reminder of the power of the unknown and of nature's indifference to human ambition. It's a story that lives on, not because we have answers, but because we have questions that echo in the howling wind. It forces us to confront the terrifying possibility that sometimes there is no neat explanation. There is only the event itself, stark and incomprehensible, a frozen moment in time. The faces of those 9 young hikers, full of hope, serve as a haunting preface to a story with no final chapter. Their fate remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the 20th century. What really happened on Dyatlov Pass? Comment your theory below. If this mystery left you thinking, imagine what's next. Subscribe now and keep searching with forgotten clues.